Good morning. How's you all doing here today? All right. You know, when I first flipped on the TV, as I normally do every morning, is what's going on in the world, and I see. Had to mute that. Okay. You see at the Dow at the time said it was down 100 and something. Now it's down a little less. I always look at it. Well, okay, market's down. Let's put it in perspective of what's going on. Yesterday's range and the trend and so on. So considering the fact that the markets rallied off of the low yesterday, some more than others, was being down 100 points meaningful at all? Well, you look at the chart and there's nothing going on here. So yesterday we had like these bottoming tail bars pretty much all over the place. And that's good. I mean, it tells us that buyers stepped up. And, we had a pretty long discussion about different concepts yesterday. One of them being a candle or a reversal and putting that in the context of bigger pictures. Is it a larger bottoming pattern or a topping pattern or a trend in multiple timeframes and all that? So this one bottoming tail that we saw yesterday, we're looking at the Dow futures here. Does that signal a bottom? Well, possibly, but probably not. Meaning, is it a bottom where the Dow is going to make a new high from here? And look, as we all know, anything is possible, and markets do what historically is the unusual at times. But when we see something break below, and it did marginally break below this low here, but nonetheless, it made a new high, which makes this major support. And it didn't close under there. Some markets did, but the Dow was showing relative strength. So this didn't close under it. And sometimes I talk about, looking at things on the closing basis. And as far as the Dow goes, we can see it's actually a higher low at this point. And that assumes that today's bar would be closed. And it's not, because this bar could turn into a red bar. And we all know that by the end of the day, just because it's up here doesn't really mean it's going to stay there. And as we can see, as it went higher, now it's pulled back here a little bit. This could result in that. I'm not saying it is, but we're open to possibilities, any kind of possibility early in the day, because we're just starting out. Whereas if this was, 355 this afternoon and we saw that bottoming tail bar or that inside bar, we'd be pretty certain that's where it would end at 4 o'clock. So now, we still, what's it going to do here? So far, we've got an inside bar, and we're not certain which way that's going to go. But in looking at the extremes of the moves, it's made a new high. It broke down below major support, which means on some time frame, a lower time frame, there was a close under that major support, which declined down to what we call minor support. And you see that it's an area right here, right, that came down to there. And as I like to point out all the time, it didn't require drawing any trend lines or any Fibonacci lines. All you had to do was look to the left and see where there's price support. Keep it simple, stupid. You don't need any of that other stuff to see where the probable price areas are where buyers are going to come in or sellers are going to come in. So we're kind of in the middle of nowhere here as to whether we think the market is going to make any kind of a meaningful move. Since we got a bottoming tail yesterday, would suggest that, hey, maybe it's not going to go down so much right now. It's got some stabilization. And because of the new high and the deep retracement, it suggests it's not going to go up very much either. And so, but we'll see what today brings us as far as, any move toward yesterday's low or any meaningful move back up toward this high. So, we're in information gathering mode. Let's look at some others, maybe get some insights here. And looking at the NASDAQ 100, this is much more decisive a move from the high. And this one marginally made a new high, topping tails formed. And at that time, because the trend was up and we had a wide range bar to the upside and it was going sideways at the top, we discount those topping tails to some extent because the big picture of the trend is up. However, it resulted, we're told about, the interest rates moving up as fast as they did. And of course, there's always the concern of these tariffs and trade wars, blah, blah, blah. And so now we've got this deep retracement breaking under this low area here, these range expansions, right? So we got a big one starting to move down. And as it moved lower, buyers began to step up. And right now we've got an inside bar inside of yesterday's range. And we had a pretty long discussion about bottoming tail bars and hourly time frames and basing. So at the moment, we do have an hourly time frame that's beginning to base and what could be a downside shakeout. It's not ready yet. We don't know for sure. And it's probably going to take until the end of today to really know. And if we can get an inside day here today, you're going to have, let me just clean this up here. You're going to have more time, obviously, going sideways, another 6 hours or so going sideways here, building an area of support and suggesting this was a pretty significant event here where it spiked down and came back up, because as it comes up into resistance and buyers continue to step up in the face of where the sellers are and build that support, that becomes a more bullish pattern. And from my point of view, I become more confident that some type of retracement into overhead resistance becomes pretty probable. So we'll see how that plays out. S&Ps, not as bad as the Qs, a little worse than the Dow. Clearly a break below this low, went down to the next one, pushed below it, and then went down to the next one where the bottoming tail bars began to form. And we got pretty much the same scenario going on here as well. And on the hourly time frame, the same story that we have here. So the question is, does it hold this low today? Can it get above that high today? Does it go sideways all day where it just bores us to death all day? We'll find some stocks that are moving, but here we're just focused on what's happening in the broader markets. All right. And bonds are open again, and they are stabilizing, actually moving up a bit. And because bonds moving down, interest rates going up were the catalyst, supposedly, for the markets selling off as they did. And I mentioned the other day, was kind of odd to me that when the move started in a big way, this was last Wednesday, the markets did absolutely nothing. And then, Thursday and Friday, it was like, oh my God, what's going on here? It was like, this is crazy. But this market tends to be a little crazy. So maybe the stabilization in the bond market helps to put a floor under equities. We'll see. Oil stabilizing here, had a breakout failure. You see the sideways move, the breakout, and the move under the low creates uncertainty. Whether it's trying to build here to go higher, we don't know. This pattern many times results in a measured move lower after the stabilization. I don't know. We'd have to see the next bar actually, if this was a green one, actually fail and reverse down. And then I would be thinking it's coming down to this level. So we'll see. Gold up a little bit today, but yesterday had a pretty big negative day. It's in this range here. So this is what I would call just a stay away pattern. you're going to get chopped to death in something like this. So just stay away from it. And the Russell, which was getting killed early in the corrective mode, prices were in, came down to the 200 MA, this little shelf over here, and now some stabilization. And this actually may be the market ETF to go to as far as a bounce goes, since it was the one that got crushed the most. It may have the biggest bounce, whereas, looking at the Qs, they probably not going to go much further than the 20 or the 50, and the spiders, which were stronger, they're even closer to their reference points of resistance. And the Dow here, here we go. The Dow here, well, we'll see. So looks a little different than the futures, of course, but same story all over the place. Lastly, before I hand it over to Dan, just a quick view of the market internals here. The idiots, as I like to fondly call the option traders that step up in a big way at usually the worst possible times. Things got close to an extreme yesterday where they were buying a lot of put options. And I mentioned that early on in the morning yesterday, and that is where it began to put a floor under the markets. So I would love to see maybe a bit more selling and this pushed lower, and this moving average of this data moving down into these green bands here, and breadth is slightly to a bullish level. And what we look for is alignment of those market internals where, they're, both of them are in those historically bullish levels. And then we look for a price pattern. And maybe that's going to happen down here or somewhere in that area. That's just going to set up a great buying opportunity for us. And, this is where we'll be scanning for stocks that are showing relative strength, ETFs, because those are the ones that are probably going to move back up to the old highs with the greatest odds of doing so. And maybe we'll find some climactic ones. And, right now we're a little light or inactive because we just wait for things to settle down. I think that makes sense.
Hey, Greg, Greg, based on that picture right there, I received an email from another service where they're shorting the spiders today. Is that, that seems contradictory to this picture right here.
That what?
It seems contradictory to this picture of internals to be shorting the spiders.
They're shorting the spiders?
Yeah.
I don't think it's contradictory to this picture. This is not at a bullish extreme yet. This is at there. So unless these are in alignment, it doesn't really mean anything to me other than what I said. So while they may be a little late, I don't know where their stop is on doing this. So it may work out well for them. Our style would be one in which to this basing that's starting here on the intraday timeframes, to let that play out a bit, and then potentially look for a shorting opportunity. Because while this is just signaling some stabilization, it doesn't mean to go long. So they may take some heat on the position, but the internals aren't saying that they're wrong at this point. Their timing of the entry may be not the best, but we're going to see how this plays out. I would actually prefer some stabilization and then see a downdraft to next support where the internals are lined up. That's going to provide the biggest potential.
Without a doubt. Yep, me too.
All right, all yours.
All right, great. So good morning, everyone. Yeah, as Greg said, we've been light here. I think we got into two things yesterday. One bear call, one bull put. Let's go over those briefly. The NTNX was a bear call spread we put on yesterday. And we're in NSC put spread already. That expires Friday. Yeah, hey Chris, maybe Greg can read that. I will when I'm done. And we added UNP put spread just for Friday, so it's another short-term one. Wow, remember this PYX? I issued an alert yesterday. I didn't get filled. Look at it, up again. Another $9, wow. Orly, we have a bear call spread. MJ, there was an upgrade in Tilray. So this one's on our radar to go long, actually, the ETF, that's the sector ETF. CGC we're watching. All right, a couple other things from yesterday. MTR we're watching over the high. ESV is gapping up again, but I like the monthly. This thing has some room. EEM, I just pulled this up. I read in the journal that Pakistan is looking for a bailout from the IMF. So, you know, that's another emerging market in trouble. Italy's bonds just hit their yields hit a new high. VXX, I just put in here to tell you, I just looked at the term structure of the VIX, and it's actually in backwardation. I posted it in our Facebook group, both for Bitcoin and the VIX. And what backwardation just means is the next month, November, prices are lower than the current spot. And that's what happens when you get these big spike ups. And that's our strategy, is to wait till we get a bullish reversal in the spiders. And then we're going to do two things. We're going to short out of the money call spreads on VXX, and we're going to short out of the money put spreads on the spiders. So it's just a perfect combination strategy of ours. But I would love the scenario better that Greg concluded with, which let's go sideways, another swan dive down, and then that's our reversal with the internals get in alignment. Pizza, the journal said some venture capital firm is eyeing them to try to take them private. BG journal said another company put a big investment in them, and I think that's what, it's old news, of course, so I think that's what caused that spike yesterday. No trade though. Healy had earnings, gap into 130. Bullish gap, let's watch that on a pullback. Site we're watching as a climactic buy setup. Greg's mentioning Walmart, 95.35. We put UPS on our long list for today as a W formation. A buy setup on the weekly. We'll keep an eye on that. Unum, we like the weekly. We're just going to watch that. UGI over the high. I got that one, a subscriber emailed that to me yesterday. BLK, nothing there. It's just Barron's was talking about the sector. CME, I'm going to keep on my list. That's a beautiful wide range igniting on all time frames. Some of these marijuana stocks. So NSC we're in, UNP we're in, GE. That's a nice reversal here on the monthly and weekly. It got whippy here. So, these two bars were great times to enter those.